Hello to everybody, and today for our fundamental information systems assignment, we have chosen Spotify. And our group members consist of 5 people. Them being Tasnim, Clarence, Said Saif, Noor Ashraf, and myself, UA Chaminder. Today, I'll be giving you guys a brief introduction about Spotify. Spotify is a company based in Sweden that provides digital music podcasts and video services. This company was founded on the 23rd of April 2006 by Daniel Ek and Martin Lorentzen. Daniel Ek is not only the founder, but he is also the CEO of Spotify. They have a headquarters based in Stockholm, Sweden. What is Spotify? Spotify is a digital music streaming company. The reason Spotify was created is to address the issue of piracy in the music industry, which was on the rise. And by doing this, it allows users to listen to their favorite artists while compensating the songwriters, singers, producers, and podcasters. What is offered in Spotify? A freemium version and a premium version, which allows the users to use the services for free with premium add-ons. The free version has ads every 30 minutes, while the premium version doesn't. The premium version also allows direct downloads. They also have the ability to build collection and playlists of music and podcasts based on their likings. The availability, available on a wide range of products, for example, such as desktops, laptops, mobile phones, tablets, cars, and also on AI-enabled speakers such as Amazon Echo, Google Home, and Apple HomePod. Why Spotify? We have chosen Spotify because Spotify offers a much cheaper price for the average consumers and students who might not have much money.
Now be talking about the hardware and software requirements for Spotify. Firstly, we'll start with the software requirements. As we all know, Spotify has been offering music streaming and downloading services for over a decade already. However, due to the fast growth of electronic gadgets in recent years, many new smartphones, tablets, and other devices are released every year or even every month. With this constant change in devices and software, Spotify too had to make some changes as well. If Spotify does not support a new gadget when it is released, customers that own that device would be unable to listen to Spotify music. A quick check needs to be done to make sure the user's device is supported by Spotify. As you can see here are the Spotify supported devices and Spotify software requirements. For Windows PC, any Windows 7 or above are all supported. For Mac, OS X 10.11 or above. For iOS, iOS 13 and above are all supported as well. Lastly, for Android OS 5.0 or above are all supported as well. Up next is the hardware requirements. As Spotify is an app, the software advances far way more quicker compared to the hardware. However, some hardware requirements are still intact, such as RAM, ROM, and chipset. Here, as you can see, are the requirements for each of them. For RAM, experts recommend a minimum RAM size of 1.4 megabytes. For ROM, the Spotify embedded SDK binary has a read-only memory footprint of about 378 kilobytes if the specification includes audio decoders and TLS functionality, and 901 kilobytes if the eSDK includes TLS and Vorbis decoding. This footprint contains no TLS certificates. The binary requires 4 kilobytes of persistent storage space. For chipset, the embedded SDK may be built for a variety of popular chipset and operating system combinations.
So now we're going to talk about the system development process. Before Spotify could actually become Spotify, Daniel and his team had to do and fulfill a series of steps in order for them to actually make the successful music streaming service. So what is the development process? It's a series of 6 to 8 steps that loosely acts as a framework to help software developers make a fully fledged system. So what's in these 6 to 8 steps is the planning and analysis phase, which are normally combined into one, the design phase, the implementation and deployment phase, the testing phase, and then the maintenance phase. So now that we know about all these steps, how did Spotify do it? So in the planning phase, a bit of background here, Daniel Ek is a huge music enjoyer, and he would normally go to Napster, an illegal file sharing platform on the internet, to get his music. Sooner or later, music labels found out about Napster and it was sued into oblivion. Realizing the need for a legal music streaming platform, Daniel and Martin Lorentzen spent a whole summer of 2006 connecting the dots to figure out what this new streaming So next up is the design phase until testing. So during that same summer, Daniel and Martin hired a lot of coders to make the first prototype of Spotify. But that was his biggest controversial move yet, because he couldn't get the licensing from what is known as the Big Three, Universal Studios, Warner Brothers, and Sony, because they hated the idea of free, and they would rather have users pay a fixed rate for their music. So, in order for Daniel to make Spotify, he downloaded millions of copies of illegal music online and put it in, and they released a prototype that a lot of people love. In the implementation and maintenance phase, so Spotify had to come to terms with the Big Three in order for them to actually produce Spotify. They gave them a collective of 70% of all their revenue, and they even introduced a fixed monthly subscription, which we call the premium service. And because of that, we now have Spotify as we know and love.
Next is similarities and differences. Firstly, similarities. The digital music streaming industry is expanding, and there are a few applications that offer the same or similar features as Spotify. For example, the applications that offer the same or similar features as Spotify are Apple Music, YouTube Music, SoundCloud, Deezer, Amazon Prime Music, and Tidal. First similarity is the user experience. It is designed for the specific device and operating system. They also use a bigger icons and image for the users to interact with the application easily. The second similarity between these streaming companies are the price range. They offer 3 months free of their premium services. They also have a student and family package that supports up to 6 devices. Even though there's a lot of similarities between these companies, but there are a lot of differences between these companies. For example, the first is the content offered. Applications such as YouTube Music, Deezer, and Tidal do not offer the users podcast. Apps like YouTube Music, Deezer, and Tidal do not offer podcasts, as there are over 1 million titles on Spotify. The second difference is social features. Spotify has better social features compared to its competitors. For example, Spotify has better social features than their competitors. It's easier to share their Spotify content on Instagram or on Facebook stories.
Now we're talking about improvements that I believe Spotify should make in order to bring it to the next level. So the first improvement that I believe Spotify should make is including revenue insights into the Spotify for Artists application. Now, before I explain more about this, it is important to note that Spotify's users are split into 2 groups. The first being the artists and publishers, which are individual and also from record labels. These users upload their content such as music, audiobooks, and podcasts onto Spotify. The second group is the listeners who listen to the said content. Now, moving on, the way that I believe that revenue insights should be implemented is by integrating them into the Spotify for Artists application. So the current application does not give you any specific details or breakdowns when it comes to the revenue section. Basically, the artists do not know how much money they are making from specific songs, or even how much charges are being deducted from them. So I believe in order for the artist experience to be better, Spotify should include revenue insights, which include the royalty payment breakdowns, which are basically the total revenue made, and also the charges and fees, any fees that have to be deducted. Other than that, they can also include projected revenue based on past history. So this can help the artist and record label plan their future any strategies for them to use. And they should also add a section of for artists to see the revenue of specific songs and categories, and not just the revenue as a whole, so that they can see if any content or music is performing better than other content. Now, I believe that with revenue insights, Spotify will be able to prevent royalty disputes. This is because there's a lot of news that saying that artists are claiming that Spotify is taking their share, a bit too much of their share from their revenue, and that Spotify is not paying enough royalty payments. So by having a proper breakdown, we can avoid disputes like this, and Spotify and the artist will have a better experience and a relationship with each other. So the second improvement that I believe Spotify should make is by including audience insights. This again is directed towards artists and publishers on Spotify. And once again, I believe that this should be implemented by integrating this into the Spotify for Artists application. Now, this is because on the current app, musicians can only see limited statistics such as the total number of streams and listeners. They are unable to see specific statistics such as number of listeners in a certain area or which songs are more popular in certain areas. So because of this, the artists cannot make personalized or they cannot make personalized and more appealing content for users and can only judge based on the statistics as a whole. So the audience insights that I propose that should be included are, for example, what songs or genres are popular in specific regions, the age and gender statistics for certain songs in certain regions, the trends, whether the number of listeners are increasing or decreasing in certain regions, and I believe that by having these insights, the artists will be able to get to know their audience more, and this helps them produce more specific and appealing content for the listeners to stay more hooked and attracted. The final improvement that I believe should be implemented are local artist recommendations. This is mainly directed towards the artists that do not have publishers or do not have contracts with record labels. This is because these new artists usually have less funds, meaning that it's harder for them to promote and advertise themselves, which in turn makes it harder for them to grow and get more listeners and become famous. So I believe that Spotify should improve their community aspect and help promote them by compiling new local artists into playlists and then recommending them to users based on location. So for example, users who stay in Selangor would be recommended new local artists from Selangor. And I believe that this will help these new artists get discovered and attract attention from listeners, which will then help them attract attention from publishers and record labels for them to grow and become more famous.
I'll be talking about the ethical issues of Spotify. Ethics refers to a set of moral principles that determine what behavior is morally good and what behavior is morally bad. Conforming to ethical practices and staying transparent is highly recommended for all businesses, as it greatly reduces chances of unsatisfied customers taking legal action against them, therefore increasing their long-term survivability. However, this does not mean that all businesses practices and that legal is ethical. Spotify takes the lead over competitors with its freemium model. It does this because competition between streaming services is high, and the application is required to stand out against others with a unique feature or benefit to the consumer. Out of 7 popular streaming applications, Spotify makes the second least payout per stream. While such a payout model may be legal, this treatment of artists is not the most morally correct, and much can be improved in order to sustain their user base. Now, the first ethical issue is the unfair compensation towards artists. Artists are paid based on the proportion of their streams to Spotify's total number of streams. Spotify calculates the amount of revenue toward the artist using a formula that considers Spotify's monthly revenue, the amount of Spotify streams in proportion with this, the artist's royalty rate, and around 70% towards music publishers. This sort of formula costs the money that goes towards smaller artists who are trying their best to make a living, incentivizing them to promote their music on Spotify in order to be paid a living wage, which is harder, especially when an already popular artist already gains a large amount of streams whenever they release a new album or song. Spotify can do this as they have the power as the top streaming service to force artists to deal with their underpayment. This poses an ethical issue with Spotify choosing not to pay artists as they deserve to be, as compared to other streaming services. Tidal, the highest paying streaming service, aims to be a more artist-friendly alternative by adding more royalties towards artists by the amount of Hi-Fi Plus tier survivors. Although Spotify has the power to control their revenue due to their popularity, there is still the chance that they may lose subscribers due to strikes or boycotting for a fair wage. It is important for them to address these issues in order to continue giving the best service they can to consumers and artists alike. The next ethical issue is a lack of transparency towards artists. Spotify has a history of being uncommunicative towards artists and leaving them out of the conversation. Damon Krukowski, the founder of Justice for Spotify, has supported that artists always come in last in payment and in consultation. When artists are the foundation of music of which Spotify's platform is built around, this treatment is highly unethical and unjustified. This campaign has gained over 10,000 signatures from artists all around the globe, showing their support and that this experience is shared amongst a large number of them. Numbers, data, and figures of how much artists get paid have been reported to be hard to find. There's a potentiality that this could be intentional, although this should not be taken as fact. The next one is the sudden removal of LBRY. Joe Rogan's podcast suddenly disappeared on the 18th of February 2022. This sparked controversy as people believed Spotify was shutting down Rogan due to his controversial topics. Even though Spotify had reported it was due to technical issues, Spotify did not release any statement of the issue and ignored a request to comment on the situation. So, how have they combated these issues? Well, Spotify has since launched an initiative titled Loud and Clear. Hellman, the vice president of Spotify, has stated that this was made to acknowledge that artists deserve a fair say in the conversation and to understand the inner workings of music streaming. This initiative was taken in the form of a website containing graphs, figures, and data of royalty data from Spotify. These data include comparison of revenue generation throughout the years and how it has increased. In addition to this, an informative video was also created explaining how revenue is calculated by Spotify.
So, in conclusion, it can be said that Spotify relies more on software rather than hardware, basically because their whole business model is based on an application. The main benefit of this is that it allows upgrading of features within the applications while maintaining the same device or hardware. When it comes to building the app, Spotify has a strict system development process in order to develop and keep them updated. Spotify's main competitor is Apple Music, which has the second largest market share. And despite having some ethical issues and controversies, Spotify can still correct them, and there is a lot of room for change and improvement.